I just want to share this today. I just want to share with you a dream that I had in this week. And, I don't normally get many dreams, but I want to share a dream that I had in this week. And then I really just want to be able to just share a bit about the word that the Father has given me in terms of today. And it's amazing. It's so in line with what you've said in terms of, fear. Because truly this, I think, is the order of the day, is the fear that is coming upon people. And you see, in this week, it was on Tuesday morning, I had a dream. And in this dream, I was standing. There was it was a sea, but it was a sea that sort of like had an island, or, it's like where it's part of, it's a sea, but on the other side there was land. And all I know is that I needed to get to the other side. And I stood on the shore. Well, I stood between buildings. It was almost like I was in Europe somewhere. And I needed to get to the other side. It's like in Portugal when I sit and they've got this lot of buildings and everything. And then there's the sea. And then there is the bridge that takes you to the other side of the land. And it was something like that, but it wasn't in Portugal, but it was somewhere in Europe. And I stood there, and I knew that I needed to get to the other side, but I kept looking and thinking, but there's no path. There's no way to get to the other side. So my son, Justin, was there, and he was there with another lady, and he said, "Come, Mom, come. We can just swim to the other side. It's not far. It's just there on the other side. We can just swim. I mean, we can do it, and it's not a problem." But I stood there, and I looked at this, and I thought, nah, it's not normal for me to go and swim across to the other side. Even though it looked like it was, I could do this, but all of a sudden he jumped into the water, and the other woman was in the water, and I could see that current. And I looked and I said, no, this is not the way to go. I'm not going to go and swim to the other side. I don't know what's there. And I'm not going to swim. I said, I will wait. And the next thing, he came out of the water and I walked away, but I had to wait. And then all of a sudden I was in this place and I was talking to this man, and I was saying to this man, I need to get to the other side, but there doesn't seem to be a way. And I'm not going to swim to the other side because it looks like it's easy. It looks like it's the only way is to swim to the other side. But that didn't seem right to me. And he said, but there is a path. I said, there is? He says, yes, and you can go by car. I said, wow, okay. He said, the only thing is that it's a very narrow bridge. But there was a road. It was like a highway, like a bridge. But I couldn't see it where I had been standing, and he had to take me to this place to show me, and we were able to cross to the other side. And then I woke up out of this dream, and normally I'll have a dream, but it was so real because as I woke up it was real. But I didn't take much notice of it. And in this week the Father has really been talking to me, and He's really been sharing with me about the narrow path. And you see, we have been put on a path. We've been put on the path. The Father has put us on the path that we are on. And especially when we come out of the things of where we knew the walk that we've walked in terms of where we've been in different religious systems and in different religious ways, and we've been in different churches and in different places. But we've come out of there. And the danger in this was that I know I needed to get to the other side. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but this pathway that my son was creating for me seemed simple enough. But it was a very broad path. And everybody could really go there. But that bridge seemed to have been hidden because it wasn't seen with the natural eye. And he had to show me where this place was, where this bridge was, where this narrow path was. And the more I had to pray about this dream, the more I realized, you see, my son symbolized those people close to me. Those people that are going to come, that are going to be maybe my own family members, and maybe close friends, close people to us, that are going to see what we're doing because we're trying to be obedient to the Father in what the Father is telling us to do, in the path that the Father wants us to go. But they're going to say, no, you know what, come, this isn't the way, come, let me show you, this is the way, this is the path. And they're going to try and lead us off the path that the Father's put us on. And if there's one thing that I have realized, is that in this time that we are going to have ahead of us, more and more it's going to become more and more a challenge for us to stay on the path that we have been put on. And we are going to be tempted in many different ways to be able to take an easier way, to be able to take an easier path, to be able to take a path that is not natural of that we have been put on. Because it can be done. It's not that it can't be done. But you see, I didn't know the dangers that was lurking in terms of the current that would have been able to come. I didn't know the dangers that was lurking of whatever shark could have come, or goodness knows what fish could have come, something that could have come. And I was going to be led in a way that didn't seem natural, but yet it seemed easy, but yet it wasn't natural. And this is why we need to understand that there's going to be many things that are going to befall us, and many things that are going to come our way. And these are going to be the trials and the tests that are going to come, where there's going to even be the people that are going to come around us, even those closest to us, that are going to try and take us off the path because they don't like what we're on. They don't seem to understand the path that we're on. They don't seem to understand that, you know, this is where I am. And even though this was my son, and he was saying, Mom, but it's fine. It's not a problem. Come, I'll show you. But you see, when I stood and didn't move, and I said, no, I'll stand, I'll wait. And then after that, he had to come out of the water. That woman came out of the water.
I think you are muted.
Am I muted?
Just go down. Just go down to here.
So this is now when we had to come to a place where I had to stand, where I had to say, I'm not going to go this way. I'm going to wait. Those who wait on Yahuwah will renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings of eagles. They shall run and not be weary. That is what Isaiah 40 tells us. Let me just quickly read it, because this is just what he's giving me now as I'm thinking of this now. Isaiah 40 from verses 28. It says, did you not know? Have you not heard? The everlasting allure, Yahuwah, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor is weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to those who have no might, he increases strength. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who wait on Yahuwah renew their strength. They mount up the wings like eagles. They run and are not weary. They walk and do not faint. And is this not a word that we're going to need for the time and the hour that we are in, because of the end of the day? Much fear is gripping the people. But we are those that need to trust Abba Yahuwah. As I waited and didn't just decide that I'm going to go in my speed. I'm going to go in my time. I'm going to go and do what I want because I know I need to get to the other side. I waited, and in my waiting and in my standing, Father brought the right person across my path that was supposed to show me how I was supposed to get to the other side. And so that is why we need to understand that we need to wait on Him. We need to trust Him. And He's the one that goes before us. And so that is why if we look at this Torah portion reading, and I just want to be able to just look at, again, as it's already been mentioned, where Francois has already mentioned about Phineas. But I just want to just quickly look at Phineas. Because at the end of the day, by what he did, Phineas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, so in Numbers chapter 25 from verse 11, has turned back my wrath from the children of Israel because he was ardent, he was zealous, and my order in their midst, so that I did not consume the children of Israel in my order. And look at what verse 12 says, and see, I am giving him a covenant of peace. And this is what I want you to take note of today. Father is giving us a covenant of peace. That in the midst of the storm, in the midst of everything that is going on around us at the moment, like even this morning, Elsie was listening to the report that 13,000 new cases overnight. And we just see these cases climbing every day. But you know what? We have to be in a place of where we have to have His shalom. We have to have His peace. To know that at the end of the day, no matter what befalls us, even if it means that we are going to have to get sick, which we trust Abba Yahuwah for that not to happen. But in the midst of this, we shall not fear. And we shall trust Abba Yahuwah. That He is the one that is going to foresee. He is the one who holds us in the palm of His hand. Just like I shared last week about the accident. It didn't mean to say that the accident didn't happen. But in the midst of the accident, Abba Yahuwah protected my husband and Quibus. And now, to me, verse 13 is very powerful because it says, and it shall be to him and to his seed after him a covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was ardent, because he was zealous for his Eliyah, and made atonement. I want you to see that. Made atonement for the children of Israel. So why does the Father want priests in this hour? What is the purpose and the plan for the Father raising up a priesthood in this hour? Because, honestly, if there wasn't His priests that were to raise up right now and cry out for mercy on behalf of the Father, I can tell you now that He would have already wiped out even more people than what He's wiped out. And so that is why we need to understand that in this time, Father is raising up a priesthood. And why is He raising up a priesthood? Because we as His children, we as His set-apart priesthood, need to be able to intercede and stand in the gap for a wicked and an evil generation. A wicked and an evil people. And sometimes our own family members. Sometimes our best friends that will come up against us, that will stand up against us, that will want to persecute us. And what did Yeshua say? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And so at the end of the day, Phineas had to resort to a measure that was destroy them. He had to kill them. Because why? The plague was already there. 24,000 people fell because of it. I think it was 24,000. And yet at the end of the day, we need to understand that there's a plague that's now. But the Father still needs to be able to bring in the people in this hour. And that is why we need to be able to understand. There, in verse 9, and those who died in the plague were 24,000. So you see, when we do what is evil in the eyes of the Father, these plagues are just getting worse and worse. But there is still a people that need to come in. His remnant is still not right. And because his remnant is still not right, Father will give grace and give mercy. And we pray for the fullness of his people that need to come in this hour. And then if we look and see the name of the man of Israel who was struck with the Midianite woman was Zimri. Now if you look at the name Zimri is my music, to make music. So you see, we can either make music to Abba Yahuwah, we can either worship Abba Yahuwah, or we can worship the lust of our flesh. Because this man's name meant to make music. It meant my music. So we are either going to worship Abba Yahuwah, or we're going to worship our flesh and the lusts of our flesh and go our own way. Because this man was now wanting to make music for his flesh and to worship what his flesh desired. And who came his way? Interesting. The woman that came his way, Cosby. That word Cosby means to lie. It means deceive. It means a liar. And so you see, the enemy comes around like a roaring lion to see whom he can deceive. So what is he going to do? He brings us and lures us into a camp. Now in this case, the enemy came into the camp of the Israelites. And there will be those that will come into our camp. And they will be there to want to bring deception. They will be there to want to be able to bring lies. And the enemy comes into the camp of our own mind. And in our mind, he comes and with a plan. And his plan is to deceive. His plan is to lie. His plan is to make you believe the lies that he places there. So that, for example, I just take my own self. When we came back from Israel, and we just landed, like a day or two after that, I started to feel sick. My chest started burning. I started to feel sick, and I was really not feeling well. And then the enemy comes in your mind. And now, understand, you've just been traveling. You've just been amongst how many people in an airport. And I was told to take off this mask because at the end of the day, the Father says, if you're quoting Psalm 91 and Psalm 121, you're either going to believe me or you're not. And I had to take that mask off. And now the devil's going to speak in my ear and say to me, oh, you have now picked up this disease. You see? Why? Because the very thing that you're going to fear is going to come upon you. So if we're going to fear this thing, it will come upon us. But even if we're out there, and even if we are wearing our mask, and even if we are being out there, and we are around people, we are going to have to believe that, okay, if I'm going to have to get sick, I'm certainly not going to get tested for this virus. And I'm just going to believe that I am going to be healed in my body because the Father is going to help me and He's going to heal me. But if we're going to fear, we open ourselves up to many things, much destruction. And that is why the enemy will come in our mind, in the camp of our body, in our own mind. And what is he going to do? He's going to speak to you and tell you, oh, you got the disease. It's like yesterday. My son got sick and he's got a fever and he wasn't feeling well. And straight away, it's like, okay, this must be this disease. No, this is the time of the flu. People in every single time of when it's winter time, you catch, we tend to catch this flu. But now, there's so many people out there fearing because the slightest thing, and then the enemy will put something on you that wasn't even there. Because he comes and he makes you believe what your flesh is telling you. And that is why we have to take those thoughts captive. Because everything starts with the mind. Everything starts with the mind. And so, if we go look at 1 Kings, and this is now where we're going to spend a little bit of time, we're just going to read through the books, through the prophets, the prophet teaching. And we're going to see exactly what happened here, that we can have and I really want to focus a little bit on this today, because this is where we need to see what happened to a mighty prophet of the Father. A mighty prophet, and this just shows you that we are all weak, and we can all be susceptible to the weakness of our flesh. I mean, here is Elijah, a mighty man of Yahuwah that speaks, and there is no rain. Here is a mighty man of Yahuwah that will raise the dead. Here is a mighty man of Yahuwah that's just taken on the 450 prophets of Baal, plus the prophets. So in total, there was 900 prophets that he's just taken on, just a few scriptures before. Just from 1 Kings 18, he's just taken on the prophets of Jezebel. This is Jezebel's prophets, and he's just taken them on. And now we are going to see fear in its fullness and how fear operates. And so we're going to read from 1 Kings 46. And it says, 1 Kings 18 verse 46, 1 Kings 18 from verse 46. And we are going to read the Torah portion reading of what we're supposed to read of the books of the prophets, and this is the book of Kings, and we're going to read what happens to this prophet. And the hand of Yahuwah was on Eliyahu, and he girded up his loins and ran ahead of Ahab to the entrance of Israel. So there it tells you the hand of Yahuwah was upon Eliyahu. Man, Eliyahu has just seen the greatest victory. He's just seen the fire coming down from heaven, consuming the prophets of Baal. And he has just seen how the Father answered his prayer with fire and consumed his offering, and proved to the whole of Israel that Abba Yahuwah is the true Eliyah of Israel. But now listen to what happens. And when Ahab reported to Jezebel all that Eliyahu had done, also how he slew all the prophets with the sword, Jezebel sent a messenger to Eliyahu, saying, So let the mighty ones do to me, and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. So now Jezebel threatens Eliyahu. Now, should he be worried about a threat? Should he be worried about what someone speaks? But now let's look and see what happens. And he feared, and he rose up, and he ran for his life, and went to Beersheba, which belongs to Yehudah, and left his servant there. So do you see? He feared. Now when Jezebel comes, when a true prophet of Yahuwah, when you have a prophetic anointing of your life, you are always going to somehow fear when a Jezebel starts to speak. And then you want to hide. The first thing you want to do is hide. When a prophet comes across a Jezebel, when someone has a Jezebel spirit, and there is a prophetic anointing on your life, when that Jezebel starts to speak, somehow you tend to fear. And then you want to hide. I know, because it's happened to me many times. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a broom tree and prayed. Now listen to what happens. Imagine how great is the fear of this Jezebel that he's actually going to pray. Listen to what he says. And prayed that he might die. And said, is it enough now, Yahuwah? Take my life, for I am no better than my fathers. Oh my goodness. Can a Jezebel spirit put such fear upon you that you would even want to die than having to confront that Jezebel? Because that's exactly what happened to Eliyah. Imagine a man of the Father, a man that has the anointing of the Father upon him, a man that is able to pray and stand before the Father and see the miracles of Abba Yahuwah, and yet he stands before one Jezebel. One Jezebel speaks threats against him, speaks up against him, and what does he do? He fears. And now he wants to run. He runs away, and now he's even praying to die. Can you imagine? So do you see how a Jezebel spirit can cripple you to such a degree that you will fear, that you will not even stand up for yourself, that you will coward yourself, and that you will not stand bold, but that you will coward and you will run. And he lay and slept under the broom tree, and see, a messenger touched him and said to him, rise, eat. And he looked and saw by his head a cake baked on coals and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and turned and lay down. And the messenger of Yahuwah came back a second time and touched him and said, rise, eat, for the journey is too much for you. And he rose up and ate and drank and went in the strength of that food 40 days, 40 nights, as far as Horeb, the mountain of Eliyah. So imagine, that angel sustained him for 40 days and 40 nights. Just like Yeshua was in the wilderness 40 days and 40 nights and went without any sustenance to face the actual trial of the devil when he was going to try him. And here is Eliyahu running for his life, going to hide in the wilderness from a prophet, from a Jezebel that wants to kill him. And there he went into a cave and spent the night there. And see, the word of Yahuwah came to him and said to him, what are you doing here, Eliyahu? So you see, the Father will have to bring us to our senses and say, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Running away, hiding, cowarding from a person that is going to stand up against you, that's going to speak up against you, when you are to understand, you are walking in truth with me, you are walking in my order, you are walking in my ways, and yet you will fear that very person that doesn't walk in my ways. Why? Why do we do that? Why? Why do we fear the children of the enemy? Why do we fear the people that do not walk in Abba's ways? Why do we worry about the things that they speak up against us? Why? Why? Because at the end of the day, the same test that you are going to face is the same test that Yeshua faced, is the same test that all of us are going to face, where we are going to have people come up against us because we've done what is right in the eyes of the Father, because we are trying to walk in the ways of Abba Yahuwah. We are always going to have people coming up against us. Yet, what do? Instead of us standing in boldness, like Phineas, that was able to stand in boldness and say, I am not going to sit and allow this to carry on. I'm going to stand up in boldness. But do we stand up in boldness? No. What do? We shy against a Jezebel. Why? And he said, I have been very jealous for Eliyah of hosts. For the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, and they have thrown down your slaughter places, and they have killed your prophets with the sword, and I am left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it. Now you see, now he feels sorry for himself. Because I am the only one, Father. Look at the way they behave. Look at what they're doing. Look, they've all gone astray. And then instead of us having to stand in the gap, no, we are now running away. And he said, go out and stand on the mountain before Yahuwah. And see, Yahuwah passed by, and a great and strong wind tearing the mountains and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yahuwah. Yahuwah was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. Yahuwah was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. And Yahuwah was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. So where will we find Abba Yahuwah? In that still small voice. When we quiet the thoughts of the enemy, when we quiet the things that the enemy speaks in the camp that he comes in our camp and he starts to speak in your mind and starts to tell you, you must see, this is what they're going to do, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going on, they don't like you, they speak up against you, they speak like us, and we dwell and we dwell and we dwell on the things that people speak and we dwell on the things that people are doing. Why do we allow that? And instead of us being able to understand, we walk with the Father. We are strong with Abba Yahuwah. And you know what? I speak because this is exactly what goes on. Because you know what? I have realized that the enemy, you know what? Those of your own people, the Christians, remember, Cain killed Abel. Your own are going to turn against you. Your own are going to turn against you. Those who are believers, those who are Christians, those who think that they are serving Abba Yahuwah, but are rebellious, do not keep his ways, they are going to become your enemy. And they will stand up against you. We need to understand that the Father is going to speak to us in that still small voice and say, be still and know that I am Yah. Be still and know that I am Yah. I am the one who's gone before you. Yeshua was persecuted. Yeshua had to face these trials. Yeshua had to be persecuted by his own. The Pharisees came up against him. The Sadducees came up against him. He was crucified for the fact of what he stood and believed in. And we seem to think that we will not. We're all going to have to stand that test of time. And Yahuwah said to him, and it came to be when Eliyahu heard it, that he wrapped his face in his robe and went out and stood at the cave opening, and see, a voice came to him and said, what are you doing here, Eliyahu? And he said, I have been very jealous for Yahuwah, Allah of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, and they have thrown down your slaughter places, and they have killed your prophets with the sword, and I am left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it. So are we called to be able to run away from the enemy? Are we called to go and shy and hide in a cave from the enemy? Oh, how many times, ask Elsie, how many times when I'm facing those days, how many times when I've got those things coming my way, I say, now I just want to go to a mountain, and I just want to be left alone, and I just want to be able to come away from this whole world, because I can't deal with the people, because I can't deal with these things, because I can't deal with all of this. I just want to go and run away because it's just too much for me to bear. But at the end of the day, we are called to stand and be those priests that need to be able to be used by Abba Yahuwah to come and destroy the plague, to come and destroy the works of the enemy. That's what we've been created to do. And Yahuwah said to him, go return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and you shall go in and anoint Hazael as sovereign over Aram, and anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, as sovereign over Israel, and anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, of Abel, Meholah, as prophet in your place. And it shall be that whoever escapes the sword of Hazael, Jehu does kill, and whoever escapes from the sword of Jehu, Elisha does kill. And I shall leave 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him. So praise Abba Yahuwah, He will always have a remnant. He will always have a remnant who will do what is right, who will not bow their knee to Baal. And this is why we cannot shy, we cannot run, we cannot fear, because we have been given the spirit of boldness. I have not given you a spirit of fear, but one of love, one of power, one of a sound mind. That love that we need to have, the love of Abba Yahuwah, knowing that we are walking in His ways, knowing that He's the one who goes before us, knowing that He's the one who's going to make the crooked path straight, knowing that we have to stand and know that He is Abba Yahuwah, that He's the one who will go before us. And he went from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him. And he was with the 12th. And Eliyahu passed by him and threw his robe on him. And he left the oxen and ran after Eliyahu and said, "Please let me kiss my father and my mother. Then I follow you." And he said to him, "Go, turn back, for what have I done to you?" So you see, remember what Yeshua spoke to that man when he said, "No, I just need to go bury my father." And he said, "Let the dead bury the dead, you follow me." So we are to leave everything and follow Abba Yahuwah, if that is what He's calling us to do. We are not to concern ourselves with what lays behind. We are to look ahead, and we are to walk in the path that Abba has put before us. And we are to trust Him that He will undertake in the situation. And he left the oxen and ran after Eliyahu and said, "Please," okay, now we've read that. And he turned back from him and took a yoke of oxen, slaughtered them, and cooked their flesh using the implements of the oxen, and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he rose up and followed Eliyahu and became his servant. So you see, when Abba calls, we are to follow. We are to do what He says. We are to be able to follow in the path that He's put. He's just put His cloak on him. He's just said, "Come and follow me." And what do? We worry about, oh, hang on a second. What is this one going to say? What is that one going to say? Let's go in and worry about what is behind us. We cannot worry about what's behind us. We have to look ahead and walk the path that the Father set before us. That's what He needs. That's what we are called to do. So I want to close off with Psalm 37 because, okay, before I close off, I just want us quickly to go to 2 Peter. 2 Peter chapter 2, because last week we touched on 2 Peter, and I just want to go again and touch on 2 Peter, because we are to understand that this is the wickedness that is going to be around us, because 2 Peter talks a lot about what happened in the account with Balaam. And let's just read. Okay, let's read from verse 9. And it says, "Then Yahuwah knows," so 2 Peter chapter 2 from verse 9. "Then Yahuwah knows how to rescue the reverent ones from trial, and to keep the unrighteous unto the day of judgment to be punished. And most of all those walking after the flesh in filthy lusts and despising authority. Bold, headstrong, speaking evil of the esteemed ones." So you know what? It's amazing that our own family members and our own friends will speak against us because we do what's right in the eyes of the Father. All we're trying to do is we're trying to do what's right in the eyes of the Father, yet our own people will speak up against us. They will speak evil of us. And do you see, this is not anything new. There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new of what you are going to face that wasn't already faced in this word. So if we're going to go through it, it's because Yeshua went through it. Because the disciples went through it. Whereas messengers who are greater in strength and power do not bring a slanderous accusation against them because of the master. But these, like natural unreasoning beasts, having been born to be caught and destroyed, blaspheme that which they do not know shall be destroyed in their destruction. Now you need to understand, there are going to be those that are going to come from the church that are going to stand up against us. They're going to stand up against the fact that we're wanting to keep the Sabbath, that we're wanting to keep feasts. I mean, even in this Torah portion reading, once again the feasts are covered. It speaks about the feasts. Chapter 28 and 29 is speaking about Numbers. Chapter 28 and chapters 29 is once again bringing the feasts. And all the sacrifices that they wanted to be brought, he wanted to be brought for the feasts unto him. So they were called to be able to keep his feasts. They were called to be able to keep his Sabbaths. They were called to be able to respect him and honor him on the new moon. I told you that you were to keep the new moon. And there were to be sacrifices given to him on the observing of the new moon. But now we don't even want to keep the new moon. People just do their own calendar. They don't even look for the new moon. But yet in this Torah portion reading, let me just go there because I found that to be very interesting to me. Look here. In Numbers chapter 28, it says in verse 11, and on the beginning of your new moons, you bring near an ascending offering to Yahuwah, 2 bulls and 1 ram and 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones. So on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs, and on the beginning of the new moons, you bring near an ascending offering. So the Father wants us to keep the new moons for him. I mean, Yom Teruah is the day of when there's a new moon. And we keep that new moon unto the Father. But now, we don't even look for a new moon and we don't even respect the calendar of a new moon. We don't. But yet, in that time, they were to keep it. They were to keep the Sabbath. They were to keep the new moon. They were to keep the feasts. And so, we walk according to our own ways, and these Christians think that they are pleasing to the Father because they offer him sacrifices of their flesh and they don't offer him the actual obedience of what the word says. But now, isn't it interesting? The very ones that are disobedient to not doing what they should do are the ones persecuting the ones who do it. Isn't it interesting? They will persecute you. Just like Cain, who went and killed Abel, that did the right sacrifice. He offered his first fruits, but yet he's the one whom Cain killed. Yet Cain brought an offering, not his first fruits. He brought an offering and then gets upset because the Father is going to bless Abel's offering and not Cain's. And isn't that what the believers are going to do? I need you to understand this because I'm seeing this more and more. More and more I'm seeing that the believers are going to become wicked because they will not be in obedience to the Father. And I'm starting to see people falling away. We need to understand, the Bible says because they did not love the truth and did not want to follow the truth, he hands them over. Let's go look 2 Thessalonians. Because it's coming up in my mind. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Listen to what it says. And the coming of the lawless one, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 from verse 9. And the coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Hasatan, with all power and signs and wonders of falsehood. So at the end of the day, if we are following a religion that is bound by falsehood because we think that we don't need to be obedient to the Father, that's a religion of falsehood. And with all deceit of unrighteousness in those perishing because they did not receive the love of the truth in order for them to be saved. So we are now going to start seeing a separation. Because there's many people that the Father has brought the truth to, and brought the truth to, and brought the truth to. Like when I was Noah on an ark in that dream that I had, and these people were outside, and they were begging me to come inside. And I said to Joshua, please, let them come in. And he says, no, Natalia, I've sent them servant upon servant upon servant, and they wouldn't receive it. So the Father keeps sending people to these people to tell them the truth, and they will say, I will not receive it. So if they will not receive the truth, then they will be those that will be outside, and they will come under the judgments that are coming. And in the book of Daniel it says, the righteous will become more righteous, and the wicked are going to become more wicked. Now, if they're not part of the righteous, trying to become more righteous, then what are they going to be part of? The wicked? And he says, for this reason, Eliyah, listen carefully, verse 11, for this reason, Eliyah sends them a working of delusion for them to believe the falsehood. So who sends the spirit of delusion? Is it going to be Hasatan? No. If you want to stay in your falsehood, if you want to stay in that, then the working of delusion is going to come upon you. The working of delusion is going to keep you bound by your delusion. And that is why we can try and speak to these people and speak to them, and they will not listen. Why? Because the Father's already handed them over to their delusion. They wanted to believe the lie. They wanted to believe this religious demons that they received. Then He hands them over to those religious demons. In order that all should be judged who did not believe the truth, but have delighted in the unrighteousness. So you will see that they will become more unrighteous. They will do more unrighteous deeds as opposed to righteous deeds. But we ought to give thanks to Eliyah always for you, brothers, beloved, by the Master, because Eliyah from the beginning chose you to be saved in set apartness of spirit and in belief of truth. So it doesn't help you to just receive the Ruach. You receive, Yeshua says, my Father, John chapter 4, He says, my Father is looking for true worshippers, those who will worship me in spirit and in truth. So there's many believers that have received the Spirit. But the Spirit has been given to us to set us apart in what? In the truth of Abba Yahuwah's word. And if we are not being set apart in the truth of Abba Yahuwah's word, then we have been deluded. And we will go astray. And so now he says, let's go back to 2 Peter chapter 2. And it says, verse 13, being about to receive the wages of unrighteousness, deeming indulgence in the day of pleasure, spots and blemishes revealing in their own deception while they feast with you. So you see, they are going to be going further and deeper into their own flesh, and they will go further and deeper into deception. And we can pray for them, and that's all we can do. And trust that Abba be the one to open their eyes and open their ears. As priests, we are called to pray for them. But if they choose to stay in the disobedience and they choose to believe the lie, there's nothing we can do. Having eyes filled with an adulteress and unable to cease from sin, enticing unstable beings, having a heart trained in greed, children of a curse. So we need to be careful that they do not entice us and lead us astray. Just like what happened with Cozy. When Cozy came, she was the daughter of the Midianite prince. She was the daughter of that prince, and her name meant lie. And the father was one who worshipped the other gods, and so that's who she worshipped. And so she came to entice the children in the camp of the Israelite camp of the Midianites, came to entice them into the lie that they can do whatever they want with them, but they're not going to perish. And this is what we need to understand. These children will come, these people will come into our camp and say, it doesn't matter. You can just go that path, it doesn't matter. But there is a way that seems right unto man, but its path leads to death. That's what we need to understand. Having eyes filled with adultery, okay, verses 15, having left the right way, they went astray, having followed the way of Balaam, the son of Beor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. You see, so eventually these people are going to follow the ways of unrighteousness. But he was rebuked for his transgression, and a dumb donkey speaking with the voice of a man restrained the madness of the prophet. These are fountains without water, clouds driven by a storm, to whom the blackest darkness is kept forever. For speaking arrogant nonsense, they entice through the lusts of the flesh, through indecencies, the ones who have indeed escaped from those living in delusion. So you see, what am I trying to say to you? They will come and entice you to get you to be able to go in their way. Just like my dream. Instead of us wanting to stay the narrow path, they will come and entice you and say, but you don't have to do all the stuff. You don't have to keep all this Torah. You are just bound by the Torah. You are just going astray now. Because you know what? You are under the law. How are we under the law? When we are following the Father's instructions. That is the instructions that He's given us for holy living. The instruction that is given us to be set apart unto Him, to walk righteously before Him. How is that then? But they will come and they will want to entice us, promising them freedom. So do you see? They're going to come and they're going to promise you freedom. Man, it's just the other side there. You just got to swim and go to the other side. It's fine. Promising them freedom, though themselves being slaves of corruption. For one is a slave of whatever one overcomes him. Listen carefully. One is a slave of whatever overcomes him. So you can be a slave of your money. You can be a slave of your own freedom, of your own religion that you are going to serve. You will become a slave of that religious system that you will not want to come out of. And you will receive the judgment that will come your way. Because you will be enslaved. In that which you think is freedom will enslave you in the end. I mean, we watched last night an excellent movie, if you can get this movie, called 40 Nights in the Wilderness. 40 Nights in the Desert. It's called 40 Nights. How Joshua is tempted for those 40 nights, and believe me, this is a movie that we are to watch because we just read the account of how the devil comes just to tempt him a little bit. And even when I did that series, that 5-part series of the tests in the wilderness, I didn't even do any justice to what this movie speaks. Because let me tell you something, it was not easy for Joshua. And how he's got to be tormented by the enemy. And how does he keep combating him? The word, it is written, the word. He has to have the word within him. But you know, the enemy brings him such testing where he says, why do you want to go and die for these people? For what? They are rebellious. They don't listen to you. And you see, even as priests, that's what happens. We come to a place where we say, we'll be like Moses, struck that rock. Because they're just a rebellious bunch. You know, so what if he destroys them all? But we have to understand that we have to have a heart of being able to intercede, of saying, Father, please will you just have mercy? Because they are blinded, they cannot see. And just as He opened our eyes, that we pray and continue to pray that Father open their eyes. So, for if after they have escaped the defilements of the world through the knowledge of the Master and Savior Yahushua. So listen, they have escaped it by being saved. They've been escaped by the defilement of the world through the knowledge of Messiah. They are again entangled in them and overcome. The latter end is worse for them than the first. So there are going to be many that received salvation, that were set apart for the Father, but then they're going to become so wicked in their hearts that they're going to be enslaved by the things of the world again, and their latter is going to be worse than the beginning. And this is what I see already happening now. people are falling. They're becoming wicked in their hearts. They have no more sound judgment. They are not being able to discern that they are being used by the enemy to do the enemy's work against the very children of Abba Yahuwah. They cannot see that. They cannot see that. For it would have been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than having known it, to turn from the set-apart command delivered unto them. So this be a warning for us. We as the children of Yahuwah that has come onto the path of Torah, if we start to be enticed by the people and go off the path that we have learned, it's going to be worse off for us. It will be like the dog that returns to its vomit, is what the next verse says. So let us close with Psalm 37, which is the verse that the Father gave me, because one of the readings that we had to read in the New Testament was in Matthew 5 verse 5. And in Matthew 5 verse 5 it says, "Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth." So that was one of the scriptures that we had to read. And then the Father took me to Psalm 37. And I want to close off by reading Psalm 37, because I think Psalm 37 is very, very, very powerful psalm. A psalm that we need to be reading in this hour and understanding. And it starts by saying, "Do not fret because of evildoers. Do not be envious of the workers of unrighteousness." So we get ourselves fretted because of what these people are doing. We get ourselves all worked up. For what? Do not fret. Do not fret because of evildoers. Do not be envious of the workers of unrighteousness. And we see the way they carry on, and yet they will be blessed, and yet they will have all these things, and yet we do not understand. And yet we'll stand back and say, "Father, I don't understand. I serve you. I honor you. I do all these things for you. And yet these people are prospering, and yet I don't." And sometimes we allow that to come in our hearts, and we must be very careful of that. We must be very careful to guard our hearts, not to be able to be envious of the children of the world that are doing wickedness, and yet they still prosper and are still being blessed, and yet we are not. And we must be very careful. "For they soon wither like grass and fade like green plants. Trust in Yahuwah and do good." So it doesn't matter if they do bad. You continue to do good. You continue to do what is right in the eyes of Abba Yahuwah. "Dwell in the earth and feed on steadfastness." So what we have to do, knowing done all, you will stand. Having done all, you will stand until the end. Having done your all, you will continue to stand, even if everybody else around you will be falling. You will stand. And even if they say to you, "You go this path," you will stand and say, "I will not. I will wait. I will stand. I will wait on my Father to show me the way that I am to go." So even though the problems are all around us and we don't know where we are to go, we will stand and we will wait until we hear the still small voice telling us when to move. And we will not run unless the Father tells us to run. And we will not move unless the Father tells us to move. "And delight yourselves in Yahuwah, and let Him give you the desires of your heart." So you see, when we delight ourselves in Abba Yahuwah, He will give us the desire of our heart. Because who put the desire there to start off with? He does. He puts that desire there. "Commit your ways to Yahuwah, and trust in Him, and He does it." There you go. We are to commit our ways to Yahuwah. We are to trust in Him, and He will do it. It's not for us to do it. It's not for us to do our own thing. It wasn't for me to try to get to the other side. It was for me to wait on Him and to trust Him that He was the one that was going to provide the path that I was going to have to go on. "And He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light." So you see, even if they speak up against you, even if they do all these things, the day will come that they will see. They will see. They will see the righteousness of the light that is upon you. Like even my brother now, even in this time, for 20 years, I have been standing in my truth of what I walk in. I won't even bother trying to minister to them. I did in the beginning. I spoke and I spoke and I spoke to no avail. But now after 20 years, then my brother knows I can go to my sister and ask her for prayer. And now he's able to praise Abba Yahuwah. And that's why I say, doesn't matter if right now your family doesn't see the truth. You continue to stand in what you believe. Because when it really gets dark, then they will be able to turn to you, because the light will be shining from you. Arise and shine, for your light has come. For the glory of Yahuwah has risen upon you. Great darkness will cover the earth, but they're going to come to the brightness of your light. Because those who are truly His are going to shine as the brightness of the stars. Because that's what it says in Daniel. Those who will be righteous, those who turn many to righteousness, will shine as the brightness of the stars in the heavens. And it says, and your right rulings as midday. Rest in Yahuwah and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man doing wicked devices. So if they do wicked and they prosper, let them carry on in their wickedness and let them carry on prospering in their wicked way. It's not your place to look and say, but Father, what about me? At the appointed time, He will raise you up. And if it's not now, believe me, it will be in the kingdom to come. Because we're going to see it. Abstain from displeasure and forsake wrath. So abstain from the displeasure and forsake wrath. Do not fret also to do evil. For evildoers are cut off. But those who wait on Yahuwah, they shall inherit the earth. There you see. Those who will wait on Yahuwah. As I waited, I was given the path that I was to go on. Those who wait on Yahuwah, He shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on the wings of the eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Yet a little while, the wrong is no more, and you shall look on his place, but it is not. But the meek ones shall inherit the earth. This is what Yeshua spoke in Matthew 5 verse 5. And the meek ones shall inherit the earth and delight themselves in plenty of peace. So what did the Father give to Phineas? Phineas was given the covenant of peace. So that is why we will be His set-apart priests that will walk in the covenant of peace. Why? Because we are the meek ones. What does that word meek mean? That word meek is anav. And that word anav is poor, is humble, is afflicted, is needy, is humbled, and lowly, is gentle. It's meek. That's what Yeshua was. Humble. Humble yourselves under the mighty hand of Yahuwah, and He shall lift you up. Humble. It says, submit to Yahuwah. That word that says submit to Yahuwah, it says, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of Yahuwah. Submit to Yahuwah. Humble to Yahuwah. Submit to Him. Do what is right in His eyes. Obey His ways. Resist the devil, and he will flee. So when we submit ourselves to Yahuwah, when we are humble under the mighty hand of Yahuwah, when we bow to doing what He wants, then He resists, then we will resist the devil and he will flee. So when we listen to the voice of the enemy, as opposed to listening to Abba Yahuwah, then we cannot resist the enemy. And that's why he overtakes us. But when we submit to Yahuwah, when we humble ourselves, when we allow ourselves to be meek, when we allow ourselves to be able to be humbled, to be afflicted, we will be afflicted because we stand for what's righteous, because we stand for truth. We are going to be afflicted. There will be times that we will have to go through poverty because we're going to have to forsake the ways of the world and the ways of getting the riches of the world. But He will raise us up at the appointed time. And this is what I see happening now. Now is the time where those that have been faithful to Him, those that have stood, those that have allowed the Father to be able to strip them from all the things of the world, He's going to start raising them up. And where the children of the world are going to go without finances, going to go without many things, the children of Yahuwah, He's going to start raising them up. And He's going to bless them. The wrong plots against the righteous and gnashes his teeth at him. Yahuwah laughs at him, for He sees that his day is coming. So don't worry if they plot against you. Don't worry if they speak evil of you. Don't worry. Because the Father sees. Remember, He loves you. The wrong have drawn the sword and have bent their bow, to cause the poor and needy to fall, to slay those who walk straightly. Their sword does enter into their own heart, and their bows are broken. Better is the little of the righteous one than the riches of many wrongdoers. So you see, He wants the little of the righteous one. Even if we only just walk a little bit righteous before Him, it's more than all the riches of the wicked. For the arms of the wrongdoers are broken, and Yahuwah sustains the righteous. Yahuwah knows the day of the perfect. What was it that was spoken of Noah? Noah was a righteous man. Noah was perfect. And he walked with Yahuwah. Noah was a righteous man. He was perfect in his generation. And he walked with Yahuwah. Listen to what he says. Yahuwah knows the day of the perfect. Those who are perfect in not that they are without sin. They are perfect in submitting themselves to Yahuwah and wanting to walk in His ways. And the inheritance is forever. They are not ashamed in a time of evil. In the days of scarcity of food, they are satisfied. Please make note of that, because the day of the scarcity of food is going to come. Famine is going to be upon us, but they will be satisfied, because the Father will provide. Even the little that we have, He will multiply. But the wrongdoers shall perish, and the enemies of Yahuwah, like the splendor of the meadows, they vanish. Like smoke, they vanish away. The wrongdoer is borrowing and does not repay, but the righteous one shall favor and gives. So the righteous will give, even in a time of when it is difficult. They will give. But the righteous one shows favor and gives, for his blessed ones inherit the earth. But those cursed by him are cut off. The steps of a man are ordered by Yahuwah, and He delights in his way. So we will have our steps ordered by Yahuwah. Though he falls, he is not cast down, for Yahuwah is supporting his hand. And I have been young, and now I am old, and yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, or his seed begging bread. So praise you, Abba. He will sustain us and He will supply. And that is why the Father's telling me, gather food, Natalia. Gather food, Natalia. Because even if you've got a little bit, understand what I gather cannot sustain us for 3 years. But He will multiply it. Because we see the miracle in this house. Every single time we see the miracle in this place where we're living now, we see the food multiplying every time. All day long He's showing favor and lending, and His seed is for a blessing. Turn away from evil and do good. So you see, that's what we need to do. We need to turn away from evil and do good and dwell forever. And Yahuwah loves right ruling and does not forsake His loving committed ones. They shall be guarded forever, but the seed of the wrongdoers is cut off. The righteous shall inherit the earth and dwell in it forever. So who's going to inherit the earth? Who is going to stay on this earth? But no, we want to all be raptured. The righteous shall inherit the earth. The righteous shall dwell on the earth. They will be the ones that will walk with Abba Yahuwah. And the mouth of the righteous speaks wisdom. And this is the time that we're in. We're in the time to speak wisdom. And his tongue talks of right ruling. And the Torah of Eliyah is in his heart. So you see, your heart cannot be wicked when the Torah of Yahuwah is in your heart. When you allow your mind, your will, and your emotions, what is your heart? Your heart is your lev. Your lev is made up of what? Is made up of the soul man, which is made up of the mind, the will, and the emotions. When your mind, your will, and your emotions is laid down to be able to obey the instructions of this word, how can you be wicked? There's no way of being wicked. But if you are not allowing the Torah to be able to come and take charge of your mind, your will, and your emotions, what will your heart turn to? Wickedness. His steps do not slide. The wrong one is watching for the righteous and is seeking to slay him. And that's what they do. They check our every move, and then they want to speak behind our backs. When we don't even do anything. We don't even do anything. And they want to speak behind our backs. I mean, that is exactly what happened to me. I didn't even do anything. And they spoke behind my back and cast me out. But that's what they did to Yeshua at the end of the day as well. The wrong one is watching for the righteous and seeking to slay him and does not leave him in his hand. Let him be declared wrong when he is judged. Wait on Yahuwah and guard his way. So you see, there's a way that seems right unto man, but its end leads to death. We are to go on the way that the Father shows us, and he shall exalt you to inherit the earth. When the wrongdoers are cut off, you shall see it. I have seen the wrongdoer in great power, and spreading himself like a native green tree. Yet he passed away, and see, he was not. And I sought him, but he was not. He was not found. Watch the perfect and observe the straight, for the latter end of each is peace. What was the covenant that was given to Pinhas? Because Pinhas was zealous for the Father, because Pinhas was willing to stand for what was right, what was willing to stand for Abba's Torah and Abba's way, was willing to stand up against the gods of Pawur. What did he have? A covenant of peace. What are we as the righteous of Abba Yahuwah, his set-apart priesthood, going to have? Peace. His end of each is peace. The covenant of peace that the Father will make with us. Because we stand up against that which is wicked and evil, and we will not bow to it. But the transgressors shall be destroyed together. The latter end of the wrong shall be cut off. But the deliverance of the righteous is from Yahuwah. So he will deliver us. Their strength in time of distress. He will be our strength in the time of distress. It doesn't matter how dark it's going to get. He will be our strength. And Yahuwah does help them and deliver them. He delivers them from the wrongdoers and saves them because they took refuge in him. That is the word of Abba Yahuwah for the time that we are in. We are to meditate on the Psalm 37 to understand that this is what the Father is saying in this hour. That he will be our refuge and our strength. That he's our strong tower. That the righteous will run into him. That we are not to fear. We are not to fret. We are not to be envious. But we are to stand and we are to trust. And he will make our paths straight. Because broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many are on that path. But narrow is the way that leads to life, and few are going to find it. And the few are going to be the Pinhases that are going to stand up. That priesthood that's going to stand up, that's going to do what is right, that's going to put a stop to the plague amongst those that are righteous before the Father. Amen. Praise you, Abba. Thank you for your word.